Is Dak Prescott an MVP candidate? That is the question that Cowboys fans are making themselves right now. And tonight, we'll get into the real reason why, yes, yes, he indeed is an MVP candidate. Let's go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Prime Time. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network with a lot more content coming your way. Make sure that you hit the like button for me and you check out a2zsports.com/Dallas. Hope that you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday tonight. And I'm ready for some Cowboys football talk. We'll go through several things today. We'll talk about Dak Prescott being an MVP candidate, which seems to be the conversation right now for many Cowboys fans. And how could it not? After the 3-game streak that Dak Prescott is in, I think it really is just fair to at least discuss it. And, you know, you do some research, you watch some tape, and you're like, okay, it's kind of unfair to not call him a candidate at the very least. I'm not sure about favorite, anything like that. But tonight, we'll be trying to build that case for him. And we'll also react to some sad news for Cowboys Nation. And that is Leighton Vander Esch being ruled out for the season. We'll react to that a little bit. And of course, we'll talk about what it means for the linebackers for Dallas. And then we'll close out the show with the one cool thing. So that is going to be fun for sure. Let me say hi to you guys very quickly here on the YouTube chat. We've got Gregory, we've got Katharina, Mark. Who else do we have here? We've got Complex, we've got Holly. Let's see. We've got Toxic Tom, Peter, Clayton. We've got a very, very stacked YouTube chat right now. So welcome, everyone. Let's talk about Dak Prescott very quickly here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something right now. Where would you rank right now Dak Prescott among MVP candidates? If you are not sure about, who else is in contention, give me a ballpark. Top 3, top 5. Where does Dak Prescott rank in the MVP conversation? Now, let's get very quickly through why we are, in the first place talking about it. And I believe if you've watched the Cowboys games recently, you know exactly why. First and foremost, Dak Prescott working from Sunday backwards, Dak Prescott has had a 404-yard performance to go with 4 touchdowns passing and then 1 more rushing the football. In Philly, he had 374 yards, 3 passing touchdowns on top of that. And then against the Rams, 4 passing touchdowns, 304 yards. So just over the last 3 games, that is what? 5, 8, 12 touchdowns that he's been producing, or 11. That's an insane, just statistical output to talk about right now. And that's without even getting into the completion rates, which are 74, 66, and 81 over the last 3 games in percentage-wise, the completion rate for him. You talk about EPA per play, he's number 1 in the NFL right now. He's just being extremely efficient as of late. Let me see what you guys have to say here in the chat about where he ranks. Hollis is 3rd. Zach says something similar, 3rd, only behind Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Peter Rizzo goes with top 3. Jack goes with number 3. Travis Powers with the top 5. Top 5 for Katharina. Jerma says 4th. Beryl says way too early. And you know what? While I respect that, I'll say this. It's never too early for us to talk about some MVP races here, especially. Toxic Tom says no clue, to be honest. Let's get to it. I'll tell you where I rank him, more or less. And spoiler alert, it's somewhat high, but not in the top 3 for myself right now. Let's reverse engineer the MVP award. Each year, season by season, the winner of the MVP is the leader in passing EPA. Notice that I didn't say EPA per play because that would be different, right? EPA per play would maybe measure efficiency because it kind of means, how much are you helping your offense on a down to down basis as a quarterback. So that's one thing. An entirely different thing is how much total EPA do you have built up for your team. And games like the one that Dak Prescott had on Sunday versus the New York Giants really helps build that up because he had like 21 total EPA. For those of you who are not familiar with that stat, it means expected points added. In, other words, I guess you could say, how much points are you adding to your offense in terms of expectation, right? So if you're at your 1 yard line, then your offense is not expected to score points from that position. But if you hit a 98-yard bomb to the opponent's, 2 yard line, 1 yard line, then suddenly EPA becomes like 6 because you're very close to the end zone and you're about to score. So in a very, very basic example, that's more or less what EPA stands for. And look at where Dak Prescott ranks through 10 weeks. If you look at passing EPA, which is on the right side of the picture right here, he's 7th in the NFL behind Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, and Tua Tagovailoa. I'll say this, though, regarding, for example, Josh Allen. He's 5-5 right now, and he is not leading the division. In fact, if the season ended today, Josh Allen and the Bills would be out of the playoffs. Now, if you look at total EPA, which also includes a quarterback's rushing EPA, which would seem to matter for Dak Prescott, who has even 2 rushing touchdowns and lately has been picking up significant yardage in there, had 40 yards rushing against the Chargers, had 19 and 14 and what is it? 17 over the last 3 games. So total EPA might help out Dak, but Brock Purdy leads the NFL in that stat. And then it's Josh Allen, and then Mahomes, and then Dak Prescott, and even above Jalen Hurts in both categories. I think there are some blockers here for Dak Prescott, but I'm going to say top 5 as a candidate. I would say that he's a top 5 candidate for MVP. He's not one of the favorites, mainly, and I'll say, straight up, because he's not leading the division. And it's going to be a tall task for him to win it with the Cowboys. And I do believe when you have a candidate in Jalen Hurts and the race is a little bit neck to neck, who wins the division will matter for the voters. So that is going to be definitely one of the biggest things to talk about when it comes time to that. If you're looking at the numbers and they're similar, but Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are division champions and the Cowboys are not, then, just statistically, chances are it's going to be a Jalen Hurts award instead of a Dak Prescott award. And that's just ruling out every other QB, right, in the NFL, which are usually also very benefited from when they are the number 1 seed in the conference. So that's why Patrick Mahomes remains one of the favorites in the NFL. Plus, he's got the EPA numbers to back it up. I think that's the biggest deal breaker that Dak Prescott needs to get through to be considered a favorite for the MVP. You need to keep balling out at this level that we're seeing right now, but he also needs to win the NFC East. Regarding the San Francisco game, and some people might kind of point to that as a reason why he wouldn't win the MVP, I'll just say this. It happened way too early in the season to be a factor, in my opinion, in the MVP race for Dak. In my opinion, if it happened late in December and it really cost the Cowboys a, say, number 1 seed or even the NFC East title, even if it's not a divisional showdown, maybe it would be like, he didn't win the big one. But now we are way past that. And even though it still matters, it likely wouldn't matter that much to the voters, at least. That's how I view it. It happened way too early. I don't see that as being a factor. But I'll say one more thing, though. The Cowboys have a tough stretch of games ahead, starting with the Philadelphia Eagles game, or actually the Seahawks game in week 13. You've got that game, and then you've got the Eagles, and then you've got the Bills, who, regardless of their current record standing at 5-5, they are going to be perceived as a tough opponent because they've got Josh Allen, they've got Von Miller, they've got Stefon Diggs, they've got some big time players. And then they've got the Dolphins, quality opponent, the Detroit Lions. If Dak and the Cowboys go on a run against that slate of games, oh boy, consider him a legit candidate. If the Cowboys go, say, 7-1 to end the season, and then they win the division, man, he becomes one of the top 3 favorites, no questions asked, in my opinion. So it all starts with his play, though. Right now, we're seeing a Dak Prescott that is absolutely locked in, and that is what Cowboys Nation appreciates the most. I think we're entering a territory where Cowboys Nation, even the doubters or skeptics, are kind of buying into Dak, even if, you know that I don't appreciate the Dak Prescott hate. But right now, it feels like even them are giving him a chance. They might not be convinced, but they're like, all right, Dak, we'll hear you out. And he's earned it, man. He's been earning it for a while now, in my opinion. But the football that we're seeing from him is one of the best in his career. We talked a little bit more about it last night, and we credited Mike McCarthy for unleashing Dak Prescott in several ways. Dak in the passing offense, honestly, because he's getting CeeDee in favorable positions. He's getting Brandon Cooks in favorable positions. And even Jake Ferguson is blossoming as a growing quality matchup problem type tight end. So excited about where this offense is going. I'm also encouraged by Rico Dowdle being involved in the running game. So just overall offensively, this Cowboys team feels like could turn a corner moving forward. And I'll say this too, because I know everything's about the 49ers. If you're a Cowboys fan right now, even after all these weeks, we're all thinking, well, everything looks nice and pretty, but when it comes time to the playoffs, the Cowboys are likely going to be traveling to San Fran at one point, or they're going to be traveling to Philly at one point. Can they really take it up a notch against these teams? And even though I will still say that, the Cowboys do not match up favorably against the Niners, I'll say this as a fact, not as an opinion, as a fact. If they play again, Cowboys will be riding a streak, and maybe not a fact because it hasn't happened, but just based on what we've seen over the last few weeks, let's actually reframe it so it remains a fact. What the Cowboys were not doing in Week 5 that they are doing now is using much more motion. They're using much more 3-by-1 formations. They're using much more bunch. They're using more play action, I believe. I'm not entirely sure about that one, actually. I would have to check, but it feels like they're using more play action. They're just having more answers. They're targeting CeeDee Lamb way more. He's been having 10-plus targets in each of the last 3 games. And the game before that one against the Chargers, he was targeted 7 times and had 7 catches. So I'm saying this Cowboys offense might be doing it against lesser teams than the Niners, but they are doing it differently, which certainly matters and is exciting when we start thinking about playoff football. Mark Aaron says, I would like to ask Mike McCarthy what took so long. And I have 2 theories about what took so long. And one of them was proposed on the comments not that long ago on Primetime. I cannot remember who it was that actually suggested this, but one of the theories might be that the offensive line was dealing with injuries since early in the season, right? We had seen Tyler Smith start the season injured, and then it was Tyron, and then it was both. So, and then Tyler Viadic didn't play a game. That is one theory, maybe, as to why Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys did not unleash the passing game early. And another theory, and this is the one that I subscribe to. I don't fully subscribe to the first one. I subscribe to the following one. Mike McCarthy entered the season with a plan for the offense, and that was the offense that we saw early in the year, maybe. And then they got absolutely destroyed by San Francisco, demolished, obliterated, humiliated, whatever word you want to pick, rolled over, stopped, whatever word you want to use, they were against San Francisco. So maybe it was then where the Cowboys were like, all right, we're going to have to turn a switch here. We're going to have to do something differently because this is the third time that 49ers have put an end to our offense. And if we keep going on the same track, then it's going to be the same when we meet again in January, if we do meet up again in January. So I would say it's probably that, in my opinion. Like, there was that triggering event where the Cowboys were like, all right, I see their point about 3-by-1 and motion and all this. Let's try it. And then it's been working. And then the run game is not going, which might be a blessing in disguise for the Cowboys, man. The running game has been so slow to really start clicking. And I say that with a grain of salt, but that might be a blessing in disguise now that we think about it. Just based on the numbers that we saw last night, where we were seeing how the Cowboys were throwing the football below average on early downs, at an below average frequency on early downs, and then before the bye week, and then after the bye week, they really started being much more aggressive. Maybe you could say that the running game not being all right has been a blessing in disguise, because that's also led to the Cowboys wanting to throw the football because there's no other efficient option. Because Mike McCarthy probably realized, you know what, if I start running it, it's not going to work. So let's just trust the passing game. And it's worked since then. Maybe a third theory here. So I would say that's probably why, Mark. That's definitely a good question that somebody should ask Mike McCarthy. I would agree with that. Let's see here. Imagine us, this is Holly, having Lamb, Diggs, and Cooks. Oh, yeah, because of the Trevon Diggs stuff. Man, I don't know what to make of that one. So for those of you who have not checked it out, you guys saw the Buffalo Bills lose yesterday after primetime. It was such a wacky game. And I love primetime, wacky, weird-ass games. But the whole Stefon Diggs drama in Buffalo has been so weird for so long. He seems to not be happy there, but then they always kind of fix it. And then Stefon Diggs talks to the media, and he's like, man, it was all made up. I've always been okay here. But then Josh Allen talks to the media, and he's like, oh, yeah, there were some issues, but we talked about them. So it's hard to figure it out. But I'll just say that, Trevon taking it to Twitter and posting those messages, it feels like if Stefon didn't want them up, he would have asked Trevon to take them down. But I'm not sure. For those of you who are not, in tune with what we're talking about, Trevon, when the Bills were just imploding, after the Bills had imploded and lost to the Denver Broncos last night, Trevon Diggs tweeted out, and I quote, man, 14 got to get up out of there. Crying emojis. God damn. And then he followed it up. And when I say followed it up, I mean like 11 hours later. This wasn't Trevon Diggs just being sleepy and being risky on Twitter, right? He wasn't clicking hit send, in a risky way. No, he had 11 hours to reflect on what he had tweeted out the night before, had a good night of sleep, woke up, took his cell phone, and was like, let's not forget he didn't start going off till bro got there. In other words, let's not forget Josh Allen didn't start going until Stefon Diggs got there. And that was like, oh, damn, he doubled down on it. That last one has 8 million impressions right now on Twitter alone. So Trevon Diggs was having some fun with the social media stuff. And I'm just going to say why. Now, that's one thing. The other thing is Cowboys fans asking, could we eventually, maybe, who knows, get Stefon Diggs on a trade down the road? My quick reaction to that is no. No, I don't think it's an option for the Cowboys. Based on what we know about how they do things, just consider what Stefon Diggs has right now, and that is a 4-year contract extension, which he signed in 2022, that has him locked up until 2027, kinda. You look at the numbers more closely, and even in 2024, he could be moved maybe, but even then, the Bills would not save anything. So it would have to be like a super expensive trade. Maybe if you wait until 2025, it could happen. But all I'm saying, man, is nah, it's likely not going to happen. Uh, I don't think Buffalo moves him first and foremost because, again, and we talked about it in the offseason. We're talking about it now because of Trevon. I don't think the Bills move him because why would you move Stefon Diggs? And then I don't think the Cowboys would pay the trade compensation plus the money to get Stefon Diggs. And the Bills are not going to be in a situation where they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll take on the salary to get better trade comp. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, do not bank on that if you're a Cowboys fan. Just let Trevon Diggs have fun. Let Trevon Diggs have fun and let Stefon Diggs be involved in some drama with his team for a little bit longer and enjoy it as an outsider. But do not think the Cowboys are getting invited into that storyline beyond Trevon Diggs sending out some tweets here and there. And maybe when it comes time to the Super Bowl, maybe he'll go out there and he'll, start some fires in certain interviews like he did back in February of this year. Let's see here. Let's see. We have a lot of comments here. Josh Allen is what people think Dak Prescott is, says Toxic Tom. Ooh-wee. I don't know exactly what toxic here means. Like, what people? Because Dak Prescott is a lot of different things to a lot of people, right? So I'm not sure if we're talking about people who say that Dak Prescott sucks. So I wouldn't go that far. I think Josh Allen is really good. Like, I think still, and I say this as somebody that really enjoys Dak Prescott and really thinks Dak Prescott is one of the best QBs in the NFL, I think I would still rank Josh Allen higher than I would Dak. That's just me. I think he's got one of the best arms in the NFL. I think he's a little bit erratic here and there because he trusts himself maybe too much. I think that the interceptions for Josh Allen are not a problem, just like last year. Dak Prescott's interceptions were not a problem. Obviously, you want him to clean it up, but it's not like this major issue that will be unfixed. But if we're going to talk about somebody that takes risks and risks the football, and maybe that's what toxic means, and then that is probably a very good comparison. But I don't want to go to the other side where we're like acting as if Josh Allen was not one of the best QBs in the NFL, because he really is. And he might be one of the elite QBs in the NFL, the few elite. So we'll see. Shout out to House Nelson for joining the show. Travis says people pay way more attention to Dak's turnovers than they do Josh Allen's turnovers. And here's where it gets worse. And I was talking to my brother about this, and he made a fantastic point. So shout out to him. We were talking about Josh Allen and, the interceptions and, how they treat Dak differently. And he's a Patriots fan who loves Dak Prescott. He dreams of the Cowboys one day messing it up and having Dak Prescott land in New England. But he said, and the worst part of it, he told me, is that Josh Allen's picks are being a conversation now, not because he's thrown many of them. They're just now being a conversation because the Bills are 5-5. That's the reason why people at a national level are talking about Josh Allen throwing picks. It's not that he's throwing them. It's that he's throwing them and the Bills are 5-5. So you can see the difference there. And it's like similar to what happened with Dak maybe a few times last year. It's just football fans being obsessed with wins and losses records, which is okay. You should be obsessed with how many wins each team has, but we should not try to evaluate every player on the roster individually through it, is all I'm saying. Yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on with the show here tonight, and let's talk about some sad Cowboys news, man. They really are. It turns out that Leighton Vander Esch is done for the season. Oh, that one hurt. That tweet notification, when it came through, it hurt. This is what Jerry Jones had to say when he was on the radio today. He was talking about it. He said that he's ruled out, and then he added, the nature of his injury makes me think that longer term, beyond next week or next month. And then he was asked about his future, and all that Jerry Jones was able to say was, I don't know. There are a lot of factors involved, and this is regarding like, is he gonna play football again? So his future in 2023 done. But beyond 2023, Jerry Jones says, I don't know. There are a lot of big factors involved, and he needs to see how this continues to heal and then go from there regarding if he wants to expose himself to injury. Man, that was a tough blow. I cannot say that I'm surprised because if you look at the facts, this is what happened. It was a neck injury, which is something that matters a whole lot for somebody like Leighton Van Der Esch, who has a history of neck issues dating back to his college football days. And some NFL teams red flagged him as a prospect entering the league. That means he was not on their boards. He was not eligible. They could have found him in the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, and they wouldn't have picked Leighton Van Der Esch. Cowboys took the risk because we know they like to do it, and it paid off for a while. Like they had a starter at linebacker, missed a lot of games, unfortunately. And now we're at this stage where it's like 5 years into his career or 6 years, 2018 draft. We're in this situation where his career might be over. It's tough. And I was saying, we kind of saw it coming. And the moment that I thought we knew that Leighton Van Der Esch was not returning for the 2023 season was when, after the trade deadline, Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported that the Cowboys were trying to actively trade for a linebacker, but that nothing came together. That was the moment where I was like, you already had signed Rashaan Evans and you were trying to trade for a linebacker. And that was the moment where it kind of hit at me that, okay, LVE is likely not going to return this season. But now we're talking about like his entire future. And that one is much tougher to figure out. First and foremost, because we don't know. How would we know if Leighton Van Der Esch is going to return or not? Most of us are not doctors, and most of us do not have any sort of inside information. The facts are, though, that Leighton Van Der Esch is in a position where if he does return, if he says, you know what, I'm going to play again, I'm going to play football again, who guarantees him that the Cowboys are going to keep him, first and foremost? That's one of the issues that I would consider in this conversation. And if it's not the Cowboys, then it would be even more difficult to go out there and find somebody that's interested in him because of the injury history, not because of the play. A lot of teams would be interested in Leighton Van Der Esch's play. And I know some Cowboys fans absolutely hate how he plays and believe that he absolutely sucks and he should be benched. And some people even were cold enough to be able to say that, oh, it's actually going to help out the defense that he got hurt. I don't know about all that, but I do know that it's going to be tougher for other teams health-wise to bet on him. That's on one hand. On the other hand, he has, according to Over the Cap, $16 million in career earnings. Financially, you could definitely see it's a feasible option for him to be like, yep, I'm going to call it quits right now. So we'll see. Financially, the Cowboys can also move on from Van Der Esch if they want. They would have to eat, I believe, $1 million in cap space. And then you look at the future of the Cowboys linebacker room, and they've got some options. They've got some options there. And what it means for the linebacker room. And I was looking at some of the numbers for this season, this year, and the Cowboys should relatively be fine. I do believe Van Der Esch is a starting caliber player in the NFL, and I do believe fans sometimes underrate what that means when you're talking about just a solid player, not a Pro Bowler or not a, all-pro type guy, but he's a solid starter, and that's really something valuable in the NFL. But in missed tackle percentage for the linebackers this year, and this is just kind of like pointing out how good the linebacker room has been. Leighton Van Der Esch, 0% missed tackles, and he was eligible among linebackers with 140 snaps, which is the first filter for PFF. Damon Clark, 0% missed tackles, and then Marquise Bell has one in 35 tackle attempts or 36 tackle attempts. All of these rank top 5 in the league among qualifying linebackers. And then there's also the Marvin Overshown waiting for 2024. So the Cowboys have some players that they can bet on that are not named Leighton Van Der Esch. And as Jerry Jones said, like, because Jerry Jones's exact quote is, he needs to see how this continues to heal and then go from there if he wants to expose himself to injury. So it also kind of sounds like the Cowboys could be in a position where they're like aware of that same risk, right? It's not only Leighton Van Der Esch exposing himself to injury, but it's also the Cowboys exposing themselves hypothetically to having a linebacker injured in the middle of the season next year. So I don't know. I would say that his future right now looks fairly bleak. That's my opinion. And the Cowboys would actually not have to eat. They would have to eat like 2.25 million in debt money, but they would be saving cap space 2.5 if they move on from him in 2024. So I just think that it looks bleak right now for LVE. It is tough, man. It's one of those injuries where you cannot be happy about it at all. Having his season and his career potentially end has to suck, especially for a player that, I mean, he did give the Cowboys his all, right? He fought through injury. He was trying to get there every time. He was a captain of the team for a long time, and I say captain like extra officially because in recent years, Mike McCarthy has been rotating captains, but he feels like he's been one of the captains of the defense for a long time, the communicator for Dan Quinn's defense even. So definitely a little bit of sucky news, but that's the way it goes in the NFL. Let me see what you guys have to say about this whole thing. Let's see. Bruce, LVE played scared to tackle because he didn't want to hurt his neck. Once he started tackling hard, he got hurt. What do you think he will do if he comes back? Now, the irony of this is that LVE didn't even get hurt making a hard tackle, right? It was that unfortunate moment with Trent Williams. Some people have been calling Trent Williams dirty, and it might be an illegal move or whatever. I'm not sure that he did it like trying to hurt LVE, so I don't want to cross that line and call him like a dirty player in that sense. But it's like a very unfortunate play where he's like basically just slamming him somewhere else, kind of like directing him towards somebody. Tough moment, man. Tough moment. Beryl says, finally, next year we don't have to worry about him or Tyron. Sad to say, but finally true. I kind of hate that comment, Beryl. I'm going to keep it real with you. Because it's not like he sucked, man. If you watched Leighton Van Der Esch play this year, and the takeaway was like, I'm glad he's not going to play for the Cowboys anymore. Like, even if you are not high on him, in my opinion, it's super biased to be this low on him too. Like biased in the opposite way. So usually, fans also are biased negatively towards their own players. If they're not a Pro Bowl caliber guy, he sucks in their eyes. I just think it's an unfair assessment of who Leighton Van Der Esch has been for the Cowboys in recent years. And even more so to make the comment like, finally, he's done, right? It doesn't make sense to me. The same with Tyron. You might not agree with the way that the Cowboys have been doing things with Tyron Smith, but at the very least, you gotta be like, okay, he is so amazing when he does play. And that's not Leighton Van Der Esch's case, but it is with Tyron, in my opinion. Let's see here. Peter says, LV might be quick, but not NFL quick. I mean, he's quicker than me. Even that is like more fair to me. House Nelson says, LV got to live the life we all wanted. Now his watch has ended. Maybe we can get the Michigan coach to say a few words. Let's see here. What's Rolando McClain up to? Come on, man. Catherine says the defense was lost when he was hurt last season. Let's see. Oh, man. I did say finally when Chris Davies retired from the O's. I would guess that's different too, man. I would guess that's different too. I think that's fair. But yeah, LB done for the year. Kind of saw it coming, I guess. But now it is official. The Cowboys are down to Clark and Marquise Bell, really, and Rashaan Evans, who played much more defense for the Cowboys on Sunday. I would guess he's going to be signed very soon. Somebody's going to have to be cut from the team in order to make a place for him. The 53-man roster specifically, I said earlier in the month that my guess is that it was going to be Tyree Sweat, but difficult to know. We'll see very soon. I do believe, though, Rashaan Evans gets signed to the 53-man roster. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get out of here. We'll get out of here with the one cool thing of the week. So if you guys are new to the show, here's how it works. What is your one cool thing of the week? It can be something personal, professional, sports related, non-sports related, whatever you want it to be. It is our feel good segment of the week. We end every Tuesday show like this. And now you tell me, what is your one cool thing of the week? I'm going to start us off with mine. My one cool thing is that I have finally structured my day to where I have like this window of free time, because, you know, doing prime time at 8 p.m., sometimes it really messes up with my kind of like schedule for the day. And sometimes I feel like I'm done working, but then I got to start prepping the show. I figured things out. And that's not the one cool thing itself. The one cool thing is that I have finally started watching Peaky Blinders again. I have not watched the final season since it came out, after binging on the show every time that a season came out. Now I'm back. And no spoilers in the comments, please. But I'm excited about it. Let's see here very quickly. Peter Rizzo, one cool thing. My grandson got his Santa letter in the mail from, shout out to Peter's grandson. Let's go. Toxic Tom says Gunnar Henderson and Brandon Hyde won American League Rookie and Manager of the Year. Hashtags Orioles Magic. I hate it as a Yankees fan. Shout out to Toxic Tom. Enjoy it. They were special. They really were special. Mark Aaron says, using my PTO since December 8th is my last day at my job, but I'm getting $34K severance package. Oh, let's go. Gregory, my man, I have not watched it, but I'll tell you what. Neil Gaiman is my all-time favorite author. I've read every single book of Neil Gaiman. I've read every novel, every short story, every poem. For some reason, I stopped watching American Gods when it came out. It wasn't even that I didn't like it. I just remember that, I'm very bad at sticking to series. Like when I am attached to one show, I really go into it. But I had some trouble like keeping up with them. So I love that comment, Gregory, just because I love Neil Gaiman so freaking much. Let's see here. Beryl says one cool thing was Stroud beating Burrow. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight. That will be it for me tonight here on the show. But I will see you tomorrow night. And then the night after that, we're going to have Skywalker still here on the show. Remember, ADC Sports Dallas crossover. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some ball while the Bengals and the Ravens go at it on Thursday Night Football. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you then. I'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central. Thanks so much. Hit the like button for me, and bye-bye.